What's up, everybody? Ryko here. Today, come here. I'm bringing you the spice, the sauce, the deck we've all been waiting for. That's right, 60 card Tearlaments Snake Eye pile. This deck, upon first glance, may look like a jumbled mess. However, what this deck can do is absolutely absurd. And with the introduction of Legacy of Destruction, this deck will be able to do some pretty cool things. I've got a 1-card combo I want to show you with what just Snake Eye Ash gets you. And then I've got some interesting gameplay of this deck versus 10 Pied Dragons, which is going to be a very real meta threat coming out Legacy of Destruction. But before we get into the video, I wanted to take a quick moment to thank you all so much for your continuous support. We recently passed 300 subscribers, and that's an incredible feat. Awesome. Seeing this channel grow is mind-blowing to me, and I really couldn't be doing this without you all. So thank you all so much. But with that, let's jump right into the profile and see what we're playing, and then we'll show off what this deck can truly do. So, going card by card, we have 2 copies of Tearlaments Rhinoheart. Obviously, it's a good card, and yes, we are playing a 60 card pile, so you don't have as many normal summons, but we're really trying to normal summon Snake Eye Ash here because, let's be real, that card is absurd. Being able to plus as much as you do just with 1 normal summon is a bit absurd. I don't really think they're going to hit it too much in the ban list, but who knows? This upcoming ban list, this deck is still new, this deck is still fresh, so they may not hit it too hard. And if they don't hit it hard, this deck could be a very real threat. So again, 2 Rhinoheart, it's a perfect ratio, you don't need to mess with it. We have 1 of each name, standard, 3 Tear Cash, also pretty standard. And then we got 1 Mudora, 1 Keldo, 1 Turtle, which, yes, the Turtle is so OP. 2 Nessie, because being able to draw cards in this deck is pretty nice, especially given that we're a 60 card pile, and having that extra Dark Aqua to be able to fuse into either Garura or Kaleido Heart definitely helps. We play the 1 Mothman to search with the Nessie. We play 2 Kashtira Fenrir, which it's a very, very good card. Searches Tear Cache, it serves as a going second card, board breaker, and engine, so very good. And then we've got 3 Snake Eye Ash, the best normal summon in the deck. We've got 2 Poplar. It's a fine normal summon, but we really want to be adding this off of either Ash or Bonfire if our Ash gets impermed. 1 Oak, this card is absurd as well. We only play 1 Flamebridge, and then we also are playing the new Snake Eyes Diabellstar. Now this is the card that makes this deck go round. This card, coming out Legacy of Destruction, is going to change the way Snake Eyes decks are played and the way Snake Eyes is used as an engine in other decks as well. But we'll show off what this card does in the combo once we get to the 1-card combo next. We got 3 Black Witch. Excellent card, want to max out on her. We're still playing the Horus engine. The Horus cards are very strong in Tearlament, and I wouldn't want to be playing a Horus deck without them. Plus, being able to search Imseti off the field spell, which the field spell can be searched with Rainbow Bridge of Sanctuary, is very, very powerful. So again, sticking with the Horus engine. And then we've got 1 Happy, 1 King Sark, 1 Snake Eye Chase. Now, this card is what gains you access to the Snake Eyes Diabellstar, but we'll go over that more a bit later. We're playing 1 of the field spell. This card's great, love it. Plus, it's searchable off the Rainbow Bridge, so hey, why not? We're playing 1 Imperial Tomb, which is the Horus field spell. 3 Planet Paralorino. This card's still so good, and I'm surprised it hasn't been limited or even semi-limited. Just the fact that this card's at 3, we're gonna max out on all 3 copies. We're playing 3 Scream. You know, milling 3 on either turn is very, very important. We have 3 Wanted, which it's 3 more copies of Black Witch, plus a draw, plus it's not a bad mill, so want to max out on that. We play 2 Original. We want 1 to search, and hard drawing 1 isn't too bad either because it helps you play through hand traps or going second when you're breaking boards. Plus, if you mill this with a Wanted, that's an extra draw right there, so we want to play 2. We play 3 Super Poly, just a good generic board breaker that also has synergy with our deck overall, as if we're pushing for game, we can super poly our own field and just put up more damage. We play 3 Bonfire to help find that Snake Eyes Ash. We play 3 Foolish Goods because Foolish Goods gets you Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. It also gets you Solik. It gets you Scream. It gets you a lot of different things in this deck. Sending in Triva Karma. Just from the versatility alone and that we are playing a 60 card deck, we want to see this card as much as possible. So we're maxing out on it. We're playing 1 for 1 because we are playing the Snake Eyes cards, and so being able to summon Snake Eyes Ash from the deck if we get stopped on our normal summon, or maybe a Poplar if our Ash gets stopped, is pretty good. And then we're playing 2 Solik, 1 Triva Karma, and then of course the 1 Rainbow Bridge. Moving into the extra deck, we have 1 Kaleido, 1 Dracostapelia, 1 Garura, and 1 Mud Dragon. Now, this is a bit of a smaller fusion package because, yes, the Tearlament engine is really, really good. And yes, we're not playing Denier. We're not playing other kinds of fusions. We're not playing Bokalos because we don't really have the space. Also, we want to focus more on the links in this deck because that's essentially what the Snake Eyes cards are so good at doing. They're so good at link climbing. The only XYZ we're playing is Zombie Vampire. No, we're not playing Redoer. No, we're not playing Bahamut Toad. No, we're not playing Dweller, though we are siding Dweller in this specific build. We're not even playing Beatrice, and that may come as a shock for you all, but again, we don't really need that in this deck because of everything else this deck does. So, Zombie Vampire, great XYZ, you make it from the Horus cards, or you just make it from the normal Summon Ash combo. For the links, we've got 1 Link Karibo, 1 IP Masquerena, we got a Puzzleino, or Puzzlemino, which is part of the Snake Eyes Ash combo, which I'll show you in a moment. We've got a Sprite Sprint, we've got an SP Little Knight, we've got a Dark, which is a fantastic card. Charmers are just really good right now. Plus, Dark being able to search you Shiren if it dies does come up, so I still play it. And then we play the broken cards, the Promethean Princess, the Zealantis, with the Raging Phoenix to go along with the Zealantis, because you can OTK fairly easy, and although we're not playing Whale, ending on Raging Phoenix to be able to pop it with the Promethean is still pretty good. And then we're playing Appaloosa because you can make it very easy in this deck. For the side deck, this can change, but as of now, I currently have 1 Scattershot, because reasons, 2 Thrust, and then the Thrust targets are 1 Talent, 1 Duster, 1 Lightning Storm, 1 Change of Heart, 1 Herald of the Abyss, 1 Dark Ruler No More, 3 Soul Release, because we want something good versus the Fire King matchup, and then 1 Evenly. And then I am also playing 1 Dweller in the side, because if you're going first, games 2 or 3, and you know you can make a Dweller versus, let's say, a Snake Eyes deck or Fire King, right? This card is very, very good. I wanted it somewhere. And then same thing with Typhoon, or Typhon. This card is very, very good, but it doesn't really come up enough, especially when you're going first, to where I wanted to commit a main deck spot for it, or a main spot in the extra for it. But being able to side it for going second versus some decks does come up. It's helpful. So I decided to allocate a side deck spot for it. And that's the list. So let's jump over to a quick replay to show off the 1 card combo of what just normal Summon Snake Eye Ash gets you. All right, see you there. All right, so let's see what just 1 Snake Eye Ash gets you. It definitely is a lot and nothing to scoff at. So here we'll start off by normal summoning Snake Eye Ash and searching Poplar. Poplar will then trigger, summoning itself, and adding a copy of Snake Eye Chase. We'll then link off the Poplar into a Link Karibo, triggering the Poplar, placing it in the spell zone. We're then going to use Chase. Chase is going to place the Snake Eye Bellstar into the spell zone. Now this is important because this card can summon itself from the spell zone essentially from free. So we're going to start loading up our graveyard a bit and climbing up. So we're going to go ahead and use Ash, sending itself in the Poplar. We're going to get out the Oak, which will then trigger the Oak. Oak will then get us back the Ash or the Poplar, either, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to go ahead and use Snake Eyes Bellstar, targeting the Poplar. Poplar will be placed in the spell zone, and then Snake Eyes Bellstar will just summon herself out. We'll then go ahead and use Oak, sending itself and Poplar to summon a Flame Birch, and then we'll go ahead and link off the Flame Birch and the Snake Eyes Ash for a Puzzleino. Now this card, if a monster is special summoned to zone up points 2, I can declare 1 level from 1 to 8, and then that monster becomes that level until the end of the turn. It also has a pop effect, but we're not going to be using that right now. As of now, it's just for the level modulation. So Flamebird will trigger, summoning back 2, which will then trigger the Puzzleino, making Snake Eyes Ash a level 8 in this case. And then we'll overlay Ash and Bellstar for Zombie Vampire. Now, Zombie Vampire will go ahead and mill. It doesn't matter what mill here, so long as we hit a monster from either field. So the odds of you hitting a monster are very high. So in this instance, we're going to go ahead and summon the Nessie that we milled, and then we're going to link off the Puzzleino and the Link Karibo into a Promethean. Promethean's going to go ahead and bring back the Flame Birch, and then we're going to go ahead and link off the Promethean and the Zombie Vampire into our Raging Phoenix. And then we're going to link off the Oak and the Nessie, or whatever monster we summoned off of Zombie Vampire, into an IP. So just alone, without using the Flame Birch effect either to place as a monster in the continuous spell, we get an IP to link off with a Flame Birch plus the Promethean to summon on our opponent's turn or on our turn to be able to pop the Raging Phoenix and their opponent's monster. Plus we get the mill 4 from Zombie Vampire. So this is all just off of normal summon Snake Eye Ash. So as you can all see, with Snake Eye's Diabellstar being included, and it's coming out soon in Legacy of Destruction, being able to do this kind of combo just with normal summon Snake Eye Ash means you can play a lot of fun decks. But of course, Tearlament, super fun. We're gonna see what exactly this combo implemented in an actual game can do. All right, so we ended up winning the rock, paper, scissors versus this Tenpai player, but given that they're playing Tenpai, they probably would have made us start anyways, so that's not really the biggest feat. But as you can see, my hand is pretty good from this. We have access to Snake Eyes Ash through Black Witch, plus we have Horus, access to Horus. We have access to Kashtira Fenrir, and having Planet is incredible too. So being able to play with these cards, gonna be a lot of fun. I go ahead and start off with Imseti because I want to see if they have any hand traps, maybe an Ash Blossom, maybe a Droll. So lead with Imseti, see what happens. Not the worst thing in the world if it gets negated. We add our King Sark and we draw a Scream. Thinking, I go ahead and summon Fenrir. Fenrir will go ahead and use the effect to add another Fenrir, as in this case, adding a Tear Cache won't do much, because we're going to go ahead and use the Black Witch to send the Fenrir to summon itself, and go ahead and set an original from the deck. Original is going to send the Black Witch, summoning a Snake Eyes Ash from the deck, and we just saw this combo. I just showed it off to you. So go ahead, Snake Eye Ash is going to add Poplar. Poplar is going to declare the effect to summon because it was added from deck to hand. Poplar will trigger, adding us the Snake Eyes Chase, and then we'll go ahead and link one, link Karibo, which will then put Popular in the spell zone. We'll go ahead and use Ash. Now, I do variant from the one card combo a bit because we drew some extra cards, so being able to make an early Appaloosa in this combo, I feel would be pretty important. So we're gonna go ahead and keep essentially climbing, use Snake Eye Chase, play Snake Eye's Diabellstar, use the effect, placing Poplar to summon itself, and we'll go ahead and use Oak, sending itself and Poplar to summon a Flamebridge. And then, similar to the combo, we're gonna go ahead and make a Puzzlino, and then we'll trigger the Flamebridge to bring back 2, which will then also trigger the Puzzlino to make the Snake Eyes Oak, in this instance, a level 8. We'll make Zombie Vampire, and we'll go ahead and mill 4. Our opponent does have an Ogre, but given that they're going to try and crack our board, it looks like they're just essentially holding it to maybe break our board in more instances versus just using it as a hand trap on my turn. So I don't really know what our opponent's playing at this point, as I just see Board Breakers, Desires, and Called By, and my mill was pretty good. I hit a Tear Cache, hit a Rhino Heart, and hit a Poplar. I'm not going to trigger the Rhino Heart as I don't want to run out of space, but I summon the Tear Cache to mill 3, I mill another Tear Cache and a Wanted, and then I mill 2, and the mills weren't the best, but that's okay, because we still have a full board of monsters to work with. So I go ahead and link off all 4 into an Appaloosa. This is where things change a bit, just because we drew monsters, we drew extenders, we can play out our hand based on how we see fit. At this point, I figure they probably don't have many hand traps, as they would have used it by now, and having an Appaloosa, I feel like we're pretty much safe to go into our Tearlament part now. I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't normal summon yet, so we'll go ahead and activate Tearlament Scream, normal summon Tearlament Rhino Heart, and then mill 3 and dump 1 with Rhino. We mill Havnus, Mudora, Imseti, which is fantastic, and then Rhino Heart will go ahead and double Shiren. I just decided to trigger Havnus because even if they have a Bestial, I can just negate it with Appaloosa, and I'm looking to make a Kaleido Heart in this instance, so I'm going to go ahead and use that Shiren that was sent to the grave. So I go ahead and make a Kaleido Heart, use Planet's effect to pop the Kaleido, which will then trigger the Kaleido Heart to come back and dump a card. In this case, I dump a Scream, so that way I can search a Solia. That way we can have more layered interruptions on our opponent's turn. I link off Zombie Vampire, Rhino Heart into IP Masquerena, use King Sarcophagus, bring back an Imseti, link off the Imseti and the IP Masquerena into Promethean, bring back Flamebridge, and then Flamebridge will go ahead and place the IP. Now, I could link off the Flamebridge and the Promethean into a Raging Phoenix, but I want to be able to trigger the Flamebridge on my opponent's turn. I also don't really have a way to link off into Sprint, given that we're Firelocked right now, because I don't control any level 2s or link 2s. So with this board being as is, I decide this is fine, because we can just send the Promethean with the Solik on our opponent's turn, and that will make us not Firelocked anymore. So I set the Solik, decide to draw a card, and we hit Foolish Goods. So that means it's just going to be more follow-up on our opponent's turn. I decide to use Foolish Goods, dumping a Rainbow Bridge, and although we did mill the turtle, we do have a Shuffler. So when we shuffle on our opponent's turn, as interruption, we can go ahead and put that turtle back. So we pass turn, Our opponent draws for turn. They go to the standby main. They start off by summoning Baidora, the white Tenpai dragon, and this card is definitely strong as it gets you one of their spells and traps. I decide to negate this as I want to keep them off that field spell as much as possible. They chain Ogre, and I realized, okay, this may hurt a bit, but we still have plenty of layered interruption to stop this. I still want to stop this Baidora from resolving, so chaining to the Ogre, I decide to use Solik here to permanently negate the Baidora, and although we lose the Apollousa, we go ahead and send the Promethean, so now we have Promethean locked and ready to go in the grave, and we are no longer fire locked, so we can make a link play using IP on our opponent's turn. Our opponent decides to think for a bit, and he decides to go with Thrust. Thrust Search Terraforming, as access to that field spell is very crucial in Tenpais. It's essentially better Miscellaneousaurus that also gives you a search effect. Very, very strong, very powerful. They go ahead and decide to search it, and then they use talents to take. I think here and decide, you know what? Now's as good as a time to use Flame Birch to bring back the IP. So that way, if they take the IP, fine, so be it. If they take anything else, I can still use the IP to make some good plays happen. But as I predicted, my opponent, after some thinking, decides, all right, I'm going to take the IP Masquerade, which it makes sense, but it's not super ideal. Theoretically, they could have taken Fenrir and then Fenrir bait out another card. I don't know, but overall, since they're going into SP Little Knight, it doesn't really matter. So they're going to go ahead and get that banish, and they're, after some thinking, SP Little Knight's going to target the Promethean, that way they can get out that interruption. Well, that kind of forces my hand, so I have to use the Promethean here, and I use Promethean targeting Flamebirch and Little Knight. And that then triggers the Little Knight to banish the Flamebirch and the Little Knight for the turn, which will then make the Little Knight resolve and Promethean gets banished. So our opponent's definitely doing a good job at cracking our board, but we still have a lot of layered interruptions that just get us there. So our opponent decides to activate the field spell. Thankfully, it's not a search on activation. So on the initial activation, I decide to use the Shuffler, so that way we can get the planet, pop, and keep them off that field spell for good. So in this case, I target Rhine, the OP Turtle, and Baidora, because I don't know if they have a Monster Reborn spell or anything. So I shuffle back a Tearlament, shuffle back their Tenpai, and shuffle back the Turtle to make the Rainbow Bridge that's in my grave live. This will then trigger the planet Perlarino, popping their field spell and keeping them off a search. That then leaves them on 2 cards, and I'm still sitting comfortable here because we still haven't used Scream Effect, and we still haven't used Fenrir, I believe? Yeah, Fenrir. And Kaleido Heart hasn't been used either. So they go to the battle phase and they activate their Kaiman. It's a Rhoda, and it's a pretty good card, but it's also a special summon, and they summon, and then on that summon, we go ahead and use Scream because we control a Tearlament. We go ahead and mill 3, Super Poly, Sheeran, let's go. Exactly what we needed. Sheeran will go ahead and trigger, and that will also chain Kaleido Heart. Kaleido Heart spinning back their Tenpai, Sheeran effect to fuse, and it's at that point where our opponent admits defeat, as there's not really much they can do there. So, as you can see, this deck can put up a lot. And I really do mean a lot. Being able to have all this gas and all this engine to be able to either break your opponent's boards or build just powerful boards going first is not something to be scoffed at. And you know what? I love Tearlaments. This is such a fun deck and such a cool deck. I highly recommend you testing it out either on Dueling Book or EDO Pro or some sort of simulator. If you have all the fire cards in person, great. It's cool to try. I would recommend trying this deck, especially post Legacy of Destruction. If not, I'm sure the fire cards, they've been on a downward trend, and I'm sure they'll only go down from here as well. But nonetheless, that's the deck. That's the profile. Thank you all so much for watching. I want to know what you all think. Is there a different kind of build you would want to go for? Is there a different kind of combo you can think of? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.